Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I am Gabe Gonzalez, and today I'm joined by
Kimberly and Southwick.
And Zachary Patton-Garcia.
And I'm Ian Carlos Crawford. And before we get into our discussion, I want to give a little spiel about our newly revamped Patreon. Over at the Patreon, we have tiers that range in price from $1 to $30 a month, all with a bunch of different benefits. All of them have access to our Facebook group, our Discord server, and as you get higher, you can listen to more bonus episodes. We're going to be doing bonus video episodes, bonus audio episodes. I'll have Zoom watch-alongs and Zoom discussions. And any and all support is much appreciated. But so today we are here to talk Angel Season 2's reunion. But before we get into the episode, here's a recap from Ryan Houlihan.
Hey there, television viewers. Sink your teeth into the history of Darla and Drusilla, which is basically the opposite of Buffy and Joyce. Okay, so the Master made Darla because she was his best squirrel friend, and she made Angelus, who later goes by Angel and gets all soul-y, but before that he becomes her boy toy and the Master's primary sub. Then Angelus does some breeding of his own, creating Drusilla, who I'd label as mentally ill, but as a mentally ill person, I don't want to be associated with her, so let's just call her crazy. Also, she's psychic, but not in ways that ever help anyone with anything, especially her. Anyway, her and Darla model a surrogate maternal relationship after becoming best girlies and perhaps sapphic lovers, ? Then Drusilla repeats the cycle of abuse in sire Spike, who immediately has sex with all of these people, presumably. Together they form a polycule called the Whirlwind and sow destruction and queer fashion sense throughout the major events of world history, except for the world wars because they were presumably busy, and please don't ask which side they would have been on. Okay, let's move on. They all end up in this town called Sunnydale, which has to have the strangest fluctuations in the housing market in American history, but anyway. It's there that Angel dates Buffy, Darla gets dusted, and Drusilla and Spike's tumultuous on-again, off-again filet-a-deux finally crumbles, a la Harley Quinn and the Joker, leading Spike on a path of redemption, like Mayor Joker, that totally doesn't matter to this show yet, but I wanted to mention it. But while he's busy, this means that when the law firm Wolfram & Hart pours resources into resurrecting Darla, as a human with a terminal disease, don't worry, it's not COVID, she's free to get drinks with her grandbaby/sugar baby Drusilla. Drinks being blood, because Drusilla wants to do a reverse Warholian experience and give metaphorical birth to her own vampire grandma. So yeah, if that works out, these two are probably gonna fuck. And that's what you missed on Glee.
All right. What everyone think of this episode in general, because it is a favorite of mine from the season. Zach, since it's kind of your first time, but these episodes you remembered, right?
Yes, this is like one of the ones I remember. I love it. I love it as much as I loved it back in the day when I remember watching it on TNT. I think they are just really fun together, and they have they not been in? They haven't done anything together like in the Buffyverse, have they?
Aside from like in flashbacks together.
Yeah,
but that's about it.
I mean, I guess flashbacks count though. Like that's enough time. Okay, but it's still really cool to see the two of them kind of, massacring around the town. I love seeing them as like an alternative Buffy Faith combo, bad girls. It's just great. They're really great together. I could have taken another episode of this.
Right. I feel like this arc deserved to be longer. Gabe, what did you think of the episode?
I love Drusilla so much. I love Juliet Landau playing Drusilla, the way she embodies the character, the voice, the affect, like the tone, everything is just like, it's so much fun to watch. I was really looking forward to this because I think because this was part of the Darla arc, it all kind of blended together for me. So being able to look at this episode as like a sort of solitary entity was a lot of fun. I think there are really great moments, really great lines. And I think it's a really crucial turning point for Angel as well. I think it's one of the first moments we've seen his past kind of come back and resurface throughout the series. But this is one episode where I think it prompts a major turn in him that I'm excited to talk about because I don't know, maybe I have more empathy for his choices this episode than the rest of the crew, but I just think it's a really great episode. It's jam-packed. It sets up a lot for the future and kind of addresses a lot in the past. So it's a really perfect kind of connective episode.
Kim?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo everything that Gabe just said about Drusilla and then everything Gabe and Zach said about the episode, except I maybe remembered parts of it having seen it before, like on my first Angel go through maybe than Zach did. But I also want to add, I've watched and been on a lot of episodes lately of Slayerfest. So I've gotten to talk about many of the episodes leading up to this. And especially in contrast to some of those, this one is amazing.
Yeah, I love this episode. This was the episode that I was like, okay, I'm definitely still recording for this episode. There's so much that happens. It's so weird because to me, because I don't know Angel as well, but I remembered this, I still thought in my head it was two separate episodes of like Darla like waking up and her and Drusilla fighting as one episode, and then her and Drusilla's murder spree as a different episode. But rewatching, I was like, oh right, this is the same. All of this happens in the same episode. Because Kim, as you said, you've been doing a lot of Slayerfest episodes lately. The pacing is so weird, right? Because sometimes it's like just Darla standing around being like mopey, but then this episode we're doing a lot, right?
Yeah, there was actually one point in this episode, hopefully I'll remember it as we go through, but just in case I don't, where I was like, it's going to say to be continued next. Because like so much had happened and then it didn't. And we got some like more resolutions than I would have expected considering how much like good work for the season arc, or arcs, I guess, is done on this episode.
Yeah. So, okay. So we kind of pick up right where we left off. Gunn is bringing Angel into the hotel. They kind of like do a recap of the previous episode, right?
I guess that's the dialogue purpose, right? They're just kind of like back and forthing our recap. And fine, just like speed through it. I feel like I noticed in this like trilogy of episodes, do they have so their Angel investigations, do they have like a name, like the Scoobies? Do we have a name for them?
No, it's just Angel investigations.
That's so lame.
Los Angelitos.
That's official now. We'll canon it. They don't really have a whole lot to do. They have good stuff, but they're not super heavy into plot. So right before the trials episode, right? That was that the episode where she gets her haircut?
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about that for a second because she comes in and I am not feeling the haircut on Cordelia. She feels like a charmed one. She looks like a charmed one.
Oh, wow.
It works for them. It does not work for Cordelia Chase. I do not like it.
Gabe, a counterpoint?
I'm so sorry. Cordelia is constantly reinventing herself. She's ahead of the curve. The charmed one's wish. I'm sorry. Like none of Phoebe's visions were ever as helpful as Cordelia's. I stand by it. Like Phoebe was like, I think I saw a man in a suit walking down a street. Let's look for him. Cordelia is like, we are turning around. We're going specifically to this place. She's giving you concrete. Okay, powers aside though, I do love the Cordelia cut. I think, it's giving like girl band, early 2000s girl band for sure. Ooh. So maybe like not a reference that stood the test of time. It's very dated, but it's like, we like the short crop. We like to see a little reinvention. I don't mind it. I think she looks lovely as always. I do wish she had a little more to do this episode because I love a Cordelia moment, but I understand it would have been really crowded if we had seen more of the Angel investigations, Los Angelitos involved. I will also say God bless Gunn for carrying all this exposition at the beginning. He's like, who's Drusilla and the grandmother? And so the granddaughter's, that's like, he's like trying to make like a Jerry Springer plot out of it. It's like he's like, I'm more weirded out about the fact that the granddaughter brought the grandmother back. And I was like, all right, baby, take it to daytime talk TV. You know what I mean? Like,
like they're vampires. Like that shouldn't really be like,
it's the least freaky shit they're doing. Right? Like, you're fine.
I know, but they're running around saying grandmother and mother and all of these different daddy, so it brings it to your mind.
What I loved about Gunn, especially in this whole exposition thing, is like you can know exactly what has happened and who Drusilla is, or you cannot, and it's still a fun / good scene to watch. I had good fun watching Gunn be like, wait, who's Drusilla? Like, going through it in his head. But if you didn't know that stuff, then it's informative, and for me, it's just enjoyable.
And it's like, they do that often in shows like this, and it's because like especially back in the day, in case you missed the episode, and like if people missed an episode, there was no way to like catch up before you saw the next one. So I feel like Buffy and Angel, they do this a lot, where it's like, oh, they have to talk about the thing before the thing that's come back, just in case you didn't know that it was coming back.
Have people who've been watching Angel ever even been exposed to Drew in the present timeline at this point? Question mark? I forget.
No, this would be the first time.
Mm-hmm.
This is also the last time you see Drew in present day. Like, she goes to Sunnydale after this arc, and it's the last time you see Drew. You only see her in flashbacks, which always annoys me because
reminds me.
The Irish accents, like I can't. Oh no! Please no.
So I do want to. I mean, you mentioned this, Gabe. Like even in opening here, Angel is being. I keep going back and forth with how Angel feels this season because, and I made this unfortunate comparison. I just can't think of a better one. That like it's Harry Potter 5, where it's like he's like being really shitty and like this like hormonal teen. Like Angel's doing that, but I don't quite know.
Angel's always doing that.
But it's like amped up to 100.
It's more annoying, and it is exactly like the unfortunate reference Harry Potter 5. It is exactly what I thought because he's the worst in that book.
Yeah.
And Angel's just kind of being the worst.
Yes.
But this episode, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's
a little understandable, right?
But not in this opening moment.
Right.
Like, not when he insists on going alone. Like, that's just stupid.
I will say there was a moment, the first scene after the credit sequence where Angel is drinking a glass of blood very casually because of course, and he just leaves it on Wesley's desk open. So for me, red flag number 1 was that OSHA violation. I was deeply concerned. But 2, I think they do a really good job of sort of establishing the stakes, even if you've never met Drew. Like him sort of realizing what's going on and being like, okay, this is like too much. This is really, really dangerous. I have to do this alone. I think sets the stakes. But then it is, it sort of leans into like mopey Angel who like doesn't want to put anyone in danger. So there's like, it's a bit of a double-edged sword here. I think it does a good job of raising the stakes, but it is sort of annoying.
It's especially annoying when later in the episode, which we'll get to, he comes back and is like, let's go to war.
Right.
Like, now, of course, they're all invited. Like, what?
Grab something sharp. Like, all right, wow.
Zach, I'm curious how he lands with you. Like, do you hate him in this arc?
I don't. Okay. So it's like, it's usually just, he's always like this. He's always like this. But there are times where he does it better than others. And I think this is one of the times that he does it better. It's like, he's not really whining or moping. He's not moping.
Right.
He's just kind of like flat-faced, or like he's just his head is very clearly in another space. And I prefer seeing that than Angel moping around and all depressed and people have to take him up to the roof and have a talk with him and, all of these different things. And he's whimpering. And I hate that. But so this is fine. This is okay.
Because I was wondering if you would hate him in this, like, since I know that the moping doesn't really land with you. I was wondering if...
it will never be worse than it was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. At least he doesn't mope like he does in that show.
I agree with Zach that he's not so bad in this episode, and he does seem very flat-faced instead. But then he's still making these bad decisions that are bad for the team. So even though maybe he makes a little bit more sense to me, he's not as kind or as level-headed as he should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just me not having trouble with the way that he's being portrayed, but like maybe that's just me just not liking his character the way the character is supposed to be right now.
I'm with you.
Yeah. I mean, because like he annoys me, but I do think I do think you're right, Zach. There's like a difference between season 1 Angel's moping going up to the roof and this. Like this is, even though he's pissing me off, it's like enjoyable to watch because it's like, I don't know, right? It is like, it's an enjoyable arc and he's like, he is going through it. Like,
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Like the Darla of it all, even though there's like no matter how much they're telling each other they didn't love each other, they are clearly like obsessed with each other. Right.
Yes. There's like, I mean, like just the siring alone adds a whole nother level to it. Right. There's like this whole strange maker-makey attachment, so even without any feelings attached, that is still there and that would still have them, tethered. It's just insanely complicated.
Right. Yeah. So we then get, Angel insists on going alone, like you mentioned, Kim. He goes to Lindsay's place where he went last episode.
With the most unhelpful, is this a real estate agent? Is that who she is?
Yeah, I think so.
Because when he says, do you know where he went? And she said, moved. No shit. No shit. I walked into an empty apartment. I assume he moved.
I mean, she then gives him a little bit of info, right?
She gives him a lot of info. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Real estate agents in LA have a lot of clients. Maybe if you met Drusilla, you would definitely remember her. But she was like, I can't give you anything, but also the weird British cousin and the nursery and his job. Here's a little bit of here's a clue for the next scene. But it is I'm also like, what real estate agent is hanging around a rental at 9 p.m. wearing curls and a full suit? I just need a little more content. What's her story? You know what I mean?
She's not hiring a cleaning crew. She's doing it herself.
Yeah.
So Lindsay is a character that annoys me because of his constant back and forth. I know that that's on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
But did he want to save her last episode, or was that all a set? I never fully know.
I don't think he knows either. It's okay.
That's fair. Yeah. And I just hate the back and forth. I mean, the same thing with Kate, but we'll get to that later on in this episode. But I just don't buy that Drusilla would have ever been okay, I'll do this and not be murdering people like every lawyer as she goes along.
No, I think she's having fun. She's having fun. Yes. I think she's there playing with her dolly, enjoying. She knows that, I love watching her because things that when she is just standing around, she's having the time of her life.
Mm-hmm.
I just like seeing Drusilla in on the action and the active.
Yeah.
She's there for the plot in Buffy, but she's never moving the plot forward or part of the action. And I love seeing her like this, which Kim, I'm sure you also do, because I know Drusilla is one of your favorites.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is we had that episode earlier this season called Darla. We might as well just title this one Drusilla.
Mm-hmm.
It just kills it the whole episode from the first moment we see her through the end.
Yeah, so then we do cut to Drusilla and we find that she's burying Darla in a greenhouse. I love the way she's moving her hands over Darla's body and is grandmother is very pleased with it. I can tell. And Lindsay's can she hear you? And Drusilla says she's dead.
Yeah.
Don't be a fucking idiot.
I love it's you think I'm crazy? You don't know that this is a dead body? What are you stupid?
All of the imagery every time they're in the greenhouse, whether Darla's buried or not, it's so good. All of this.
Well, it's such a cool spot too, because I feel we associate vampires with sewers and graveyards, and later we'll talk about how that's where they look. But there's something so interesting about Drusilla in particular, sort of taking Darla back to nature and being obsessed with the stars. There's something about Drusilla that feels like a sort of old vampirism. She's just on a wavelength that no one else is. And there's something about that feels this is a predator that is part of the natural world and attuned to the energy around her. She's such an interesting character, and I think this is a great setting to sort of have this rebirth happen too. It's visually very interesting for me.
Yeah, it makes it different, right, than all the other vampire, all the other people coming back from the dead as a vampire that we've seen so far. And I also like you said, Zach, I just like seeing her have to interact with these lawyers. Holland comes in and he's it's a family matter. We best leave it that way. And wants, Lila and Lindsay to go with him and leave.
Oh my God. And Lila's first line essentially just being she's not going to fuck you, Lindsay. She's just
not letting up at all.
Exactly. Yeah. Fucking great.
I mean, Zach, are you enjoying Lila and Lindsay a little bit more now that we're
I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them before. It's just I remembered that it takes a little bit of time for them to really get to stepping,
Yeah. Because the confident, shitty Lila is my favorite. So also a fun thing that I read, so they leave and Drusilla sings that song to Darla's body. And I read that it's apparently there are a lot of parallels in this episode between this and the Buffy season 2 episode Lie to Me, because the song that Drusilla sings to Darla's body is the song Drusilla sings in Lie to Me that she said her mother used to sing to her. Which that's some shit that I love, where it's it doesn't matter if you know it or not. It's Drusilla's being weird and singing, sure. But then, it's oh, that's what her mom sang to her. Now she's thinking of grandmother as her mother, as she's the mother, rebirthing her.
I feel like Drusilla does that a lot, though. Just in Juliet's performance as Drusilla, it seems like every sort of motion Drusilla makes or every line that she has kind of calls back to the past in some way, whether even if we haven't even seen it on any of the shows, it just feels like that's a reference that only she knows, that she's like, one of her little sayings or one of her something she's remembering at the time, or, the stars, that has to be, something really from her past, from her. I think she carries a lot of her human life into her vampire life. And I don't know. It's kind of a tragedy that we didn't get more exploration of her throughout, both shows.
And Juliet Landau does some like really good work in this episode too. Like it's wild to be like, oh yeah, these will be like your last episodes, and it's like, she's so good, why wouldn't you bring her back? And like, I don't know, I just love seeing Drusilla in this role because she never got to do this on Buffy.
Well, what do y'all think her life, Drusilla's life, was like after her exit? Like, what do you think she does?
Because, she's just like chaos. So I imagine, like, until she finds somewhere that she's like, okay, this will do, she's killing everything, right?
She went back to the UK. She was on Boris Johnson's cabinet for a little bit. Just really doing the work.
Kim, as a Drusilla superfan?
I feel like she's got to be, like, working for one of the last circuses or something, because they roam, they go from place to place, so she can, like, kill indiscriminately without having to, like, stick around and get caught or something.
Because she's, like, insane but not stupid, right?
Yeah. Well, she's not insane. She's just Gabe used the word attuned earlier. She's attuned differently to things, and also, like, is a seer. Like, she has psychic powers.
True.
I feel like there are moments when she's weaker, she comes off as more, like, mentally unstable. But I wouldn't know if she's I wouldn't call her exactly insane. I would just say attuned to different things than most people are.
It's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, I do feel like she could, like, infiltrate a group of, like, Southern California moms who are really into crystals as well. Like, I feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah, she'd run into MLMs.
Right.
She starts an MLM, yeah. she'd be real good at it, too.
Yeah, put her in the Big Little Lies crew. She'd be great. She's a mom now. It'd be great.
Okay, wait. You both just said the same thing. What the fuck is an MLM?
Multi-level marketing.
There we go. Yeah,
like a pyramid scheme.
Where, like, people from high school are like, "Come join my nail polish group and buy only this nail polish. That's the best nail polish ever. Don't you want to have the best nail polish ever? Okay, now you sell nail polish to people." One of those.
I've only like encountered like two of those ever.
I think she would. I feel like she'd have a bunch of babies by now, like vampire babies. I think she made a bunch. I think she has a whole new crew.
Yeah, like that would make sense. Yeah.
This is very off topic, but does she ever appear? I have never interacted at length with the Buffy comics. I do wonder if she appears in those, because I know they pick up a lot of characters.
I was going to bring that up. So I actually really love what they do with Drusilla in the comics.
Yes. Because
the Angel and Faith comic is my favorite of any of the Buffy comics they ever put out. It like really made the case for like Angel and Faith could have had their own spinoff together. And I don't love Angel that much as a character, but him and Faith worked so well together that comic was like the perfect, like, Buffy adjacent thing where, like, Buffy characters could pop in and out. But so what they do with Drusilla is, like, at one point in the Buffyverse in the comics, they, like, lose magic and then magic comes back. But when they lose magic, it makes Drusilla lose her powers, which are what made her, like, speaking so, like, poetically and whatever. And she becomes, like, a crime boss in London. Like, in London, she has, like, her own vampire crew, and, like, she's, like, this big crime boss, and, like, very much herself. But when magic comes back, I think she gets her powers, but she still stays, like, the boss and, like, fully coherent. And I like that. And they put her in, like, these, like, power suit dresses with, like, flowing hair. And, yeah, I just really liked what they did with her. I thought that would be, like, a cool way to do her. I don't know. Like, yeah, and, like, having her be, like, one of the... She's almost like not the main villain in Angel and Faith, but like a villain that's reoccurring or that sometimes they need to go to for help because she's like runs the big vampire crime syndicate in London. And I liked her in that role. Almost as like Spike was in like seasons 4 and 5 of Buffy, where it's like he helps, but also he would kill them if he could. Where are we?
We're going back to the hotel, I think.
Oh, right. And so
when they have when Gunn is the only smart one. to figure out that it's not that kind of nursery that they're looking for. They're just, they play that riddle game.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually had to look up classist because I was like, I don't understand how that applies to this. Because I thought it was more like, I thought classist meant you were someone who is like,
Classicist.
So like the classics?
Classicist. Right. It's like when you're a traditionalist.
Yes. I had to look that up because I was like, isn't this someone who either studies or is a snob about like poor people? But it's
No, you're thinking of classist.
But classicist is someone who studies classics, but it's studies classics or follows traditions.
Yes.
So like, I was mooshing the things together, but I was like, Drusilla's not really like a rich snob. Hi, I have an MFA. And like Gunn, Wes, and Cordy, while I understand Angel's like annoyance, I almost feel like sometimes they're being helpful, sometimes they're not, right? Like when they're just like saying, well, we can't figure it out. Well, that's not helpful. We don't know where that is. It's like, okay, but this isn't helpful. Just saying nothing is helpful, right? Like, I get Angel's annoyance with them. Gunn is the only one that is not like, earlier when he's like, isn't it earlier that he says to him, like, you had me at Gear Up? Or is that, that might be later?
That's later. Yeah, when he's like, maybe she didn't mean baby nursery. But then as soon as he says that and it clicks for everyone, they do all get into gear and they do the research. Cordy's like, oh, look for someone who, like, look for a Wolferman heart building or something.
Right. And I do like when they have Gunn and Cordy be the ones to be like, how about this? Like thinking outside the box or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And then we see that the greenhouse is actually on top of a building, which is just a really cool, even though it means nothing really except making the fight scene have a lot more at stake. It's just a cool, like, little moment of revelation, I think.
And it's like, it is a cool set piece to like, it's already a cool set piece, but then putting it on top of a building makes it a cooler set piece. I feel like
being on top of a building means they're closer to the stars too. So even closer than you would be on the floor.
Yeah. So Angel arrives at the greenhouse, and I love everything about this scene. Like everything. I even like the weird, I don't know if this makes sense, but when he goes to Darla's body and he like pulls back the dirt and the burial cloth, I love the way that looks.
It's like, gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So it's very like Fright Night.
Yes.
And at first I thought they had like a mannequin or body, but that is Julie Benz under there. She was under the dirt. I was like, y'all didn't even put nothing, no body double. She's like, I'm going to hold my breath.
That's why her veins are going. If you watch it, her veins are going.
Yeah. That's how I knew it wasn't, because same, Gabe, I was like, that is her, right? And I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely her.
Baby, we needed to strike back. We needed a SAG strike back then. Y'all were burying actors, okay? We need to get paid more residuals for that kind of nonsense. That's crazy.
Are you kidding? I feel like every Buffy actor I've had on has been like, well, we always went over on hours and would shoot sometimes like all night. And it's like, oof, boy. But yeah, I just love the way that looks of him pulling it back. And like she does look gorgeous. And that's so good. It's so like you said, Zach, Fright Night and like horror-y to be like, oh, this dead body. Oh, wait, she looks gorgeous and like is buried. I don't know.
And it's so different too, because we usually see when a vampire turns red, they're like underground. They're underground and we just see them like crawling out or, something similar. And this it's just an interesting new way to see it. And you really grasp the concept that something is happening, that she really is turning, and you look at her face and, she's dead, but she's coming any moment. You almost expect her to open her eyes right then.
Yes.
Yeah. And Angel's hesitation is like so real and so important and so brief.
Yeah.
And, you know that as a person who watches television that Drew's going to get him, and he's not going to kill her. These things are happening, but you're still like, stake her.
Could you imagine if he staked her and staked her at the same time? Episode over.
Yeah.
To be continued. Yeah, right.
I have a question.
Yes.
So Drew comes in, obviously knocks him out with the shovel, etc. Has that amazing line, I saw you coming. Yeah. My love, my lovely, maybe my moon showed me. And then she says something about the 20th century. It told me to come into the 20th century. And then Angel's like, it's the 21st century. And like, is that an inside joke? Is it just her like being loopy? Like, I don't get it.
I mean, then she says, I'm still lagging, but then hits him with the shovel. I almost feel like it's like she's kind of saying nonsense. I don't know.
I feel like her stuff always means something, though. Is like 20th Century Fox? Like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. Like, I just don't get this one.
Boys, either of you have a...
You're not meant to get it.
Yeah.
It could be a reference to the bunker they end up in later is maybe from the 20th century, if I'm right. I have no idea. But yeah, I also really loved the phrasing of that. I also really love the way Darla wakes up during this fight. I wrote down, it looks like the yesified Billy from Hocus Pocus. It's just that straight up like, that I love.
It's like the fact that it's jarring for her too, right?
Yeah, it's like early.
Yeah. It's so good. And
she does a good job of like, you can almost hear that her hearing is probably, her senses are just like going crazy at that point, right? And like, she probably is like, her eyes are just zooming in on everything at the same time. And her hearing just, she's hearing cars outside. It's probably all really jarring. And
there's a fight going on, like literally.
Yeah,
right next
it's a lot to process all at once.
Yeah, and I mean, I like seeing Drusilla hold her own against Angel, and then Darla wakes up, and I love that she like immediately chokes Angel, and Drusilla's like, now everybody's home, and then Darla just like fights both of them at the same time, which I love.
Love it.
And it's exactly what you said, Zach. It's like all her senses are like firing off, right? So she's like probably not fully thinking what's going on. She's just like feral because she just came back, right?
I will say one of the greatest like visual effects in the scene is, and that I think illustrates Darla's strength after waking up again, is when she's grabbing Angel and she jumps up and just smashes him through a skylight.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, like she's awake. It was
wild. And it does illustrate like, oh, okay, she's got this like newborn super strength, like just like super powery thing happening that normal vampires don't have after a little while.
Yeah. And it's funny to see Angel sort of take the fight very seriously, but Drusilla sort of treats her like an angry baby. Like it's just like laughing while she attacks her, which is such an interesting, like, I don't know. It's a really interesting juxtaposition. There we go. Undergrad word, juxtaposition. I'm trying to eliminate it. It rears its head every now and then. But I thought it was cool to see them treat Darla differently because for Drusilla, it really is. It's like an angry baby. And she's not threatened at all, which is fascinating to watch.
Yeah, right. Like she's not upset until that moment when she is upset and then they reconcile. But other than that, Drusilla's kind of just like, again, having fun, right? She's just like, ooh, the family's fighting. We're all together again, trying to kill each other like usual. How beautiful. Because also Drusilla still has like this childlike whatever to her. So she doesn't see it as serious. She's just happy that Darla's back.
Yeah. And we get another moment of hesitation where Angel absolutely could have staked Darla and doesn't.
Right.
Reaffirming the first one for us in case we missed it or thought we didn't see it. And it's only a split second, but it's terribly noticeable.
And like, that's almost a parallel to like how Buffy couldn't stake Angel when he was Angelus in season 2 until she could, right? Like until after he killed Miss Calendar when she was like, okay, now he needs to go. And like, I get it, right? And it's how him and Darla can continue telling each other they never loved each other. But like, I think it's in the Darla episode where she asks Lindsay, like, do you know what me and Angel are now? And he's like, enemies? And she says, no, we're soulmates. And I feel like that's very apparent here. Yeah, I don't know. I do like the like 2 pauses we get. And then Darla, like you said, Gabe, showing her power. She just fucking jumps off the roof. No big deal, right?
Gorgeous shot there, though.
Yes. So cool, yeah.
Yeah. So then we go to Wolfram and Hart. Or no, then we go back to the hotel.
Yeah.
Angel's telling this is when Angel's telling everyone. Right.
This is, yeah.
Telling everyone to gear up. And Cordy and Wes do ask way too many questions here because, like, I don't know, man. He doesn't know what he's doing either. Like, but like someone's got to be done because they're going to murder everyone in LA if they can.
Yeah, I think it was less like that they were asking too many questions and more like that dialogue that we usually love from these characters is like getting in the way of Angel's purpose. Like, oh, would you say Inkling? Please tell me you could at least say Inkling. It's like, this isn't time for cute.
Right.
Mhm.
This is like, people are dying. You're right. I guess it is like, that's a dialogue we normally like, but like right now is not the time for it. And that is why he gets annoyed at them, right?
Mhm.
I get kind of annoyed with him too, because he's like, we're breaking into Wolf from Heart, which they've done so many times at this point. And
Right.
Cordy's like, the vampire detectors, like all this stuff. And I was like, didn't you sneak in using glasses and a hairpin like a few episodes ago? Like, is this really going to be that hard? They really do feel like an impediment. And so I find myself sort of siding with Angel, being like, you don't understand, like, we got to get this done.
Yeah, I think it helps too that Gunn is on board, so it's not like 3 against 1.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I agree with that. Yeah, at this point, Angel's not quite ready to fire them because he's like, anyone who wants to join me, my car's outside. If not, that's fine too. Like, he's not saying like, fuck you. He's saying, it's fine if you don't want to go, but I gotta go.
Mhm.
And that's when Gunn has the, like, you had me at Europe. We go back to Wolfram and Hart. Holland is talking to Lindsay. He's talking about his party, saying his wife wants to know how many crab cakes to order. And I kind of like this. Like, he tells Lindsay he needs healthy attachments outside of the office, which, like, coming from the, like, head evil boss says a lot, that even the head evil boss is like, you're doing too much. And it kind of shows us the difference, right? Like, Holland is the boss and in charge of whatever he says he's in charge of whatever department. But like, even he's like, yeah, I have a wife. We're doing a party. Like, I still have a life. You do not. And I guess that's like part of what's driving Lindsay to be so back and forth and unstable, right?
he keeps like becoming romantically entangled in his own brain with vampires, specifically with Darla, and in this case, Drew is now in his office, so who knows?
Right.
Like, I think that even
while being obsessed with Angel.
yeah, it's a little more specific than just general healthy attachments. But I do like the way he puts it. It's more like stop your like vampire erotica fantasies, like ASAP, or it's gonna like get in the way of your job, dude.
Right. It feels less like looking out for Lindsay and more like that sort of corporate speak that's like, take time off. We want to be able to mark down on a paper that you took a mental health day. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like even the most like evil corporation is like, yeah, making crab cakes. And we just got to make sure it looks like you have a healthy life outside of work. Like,
yeah, we don't actually care. Just like make it look that way.
Yeah.
I do think that, I mean, it makes sense because of what happens later in the episode, but like we get like top villain Holland in this episode, and I love it.
Yes, agreed. I actually have a lot of notes about that for the end too.
Yeah.
I've been calling him Mr. Manners after this episode. I just
love it.
The fact that his name is Holland Manners. I'm like, I hope at least one writer was like, really, we want a Mr. and Mrs. Manners in this episode?
Fabulous. Love that.
Sure, great.
And then Drusilla, I love that she's there. They know she's there, but she's like literally standing in a shadow until he like mentions whatever that wine is. And she's like, I had it once. It tasted like lion's blood.
Chateau Latour. She's holding a baby doll talking about Chateau Latour. She's in her natural element. I love her. And she's worried about grandma.
You put it that way. It's like holding a baby doll, talking about wine, worried about grandma. Like
having the time of her life, I'm telling you.
She is an older gay man. It's happening. It's like she's a queer-coded character.
It's me holding my action figure.
It's Fireball, though, not Chateau.
Right.
Chateau Latour.
It's my little Fireball bottles. And then they get a call. There's a vampire in the building. And you think it's Angel, but it's not. Who is it, Gabe?
It's Darla. When the whole crowd says it in unison.
And she
sniffs Lindsay.
he gets, and he's real happy about that too. He gets real excited for a second. Just discarded, thrown to the side like trash.
I was like, there were like 2 moments in this episode where I was like, is Lindsay hot? And then I was like, no.
She's Barbie and he's Ken.
That is a perfect, yes. And I feel like, sometimes I think he's hot, Kim. Sometimes I
okay. Then my moments make sense more to me.
Gabe, Zach, where do we land?
I think he's hot, yeah.
Gabe?
He's giving like kind of generic earliest Sean Cody days for me. I think Lila's hotter. Like it's truly there are no hot men in this series. I'm gonna go out and say it. Like maybe Gunn has his moments and Wesley has a couple moments, but the women in this series and the demons are definitely higher on the hot factor for me.
All right. Fair. I mean, Angel does it for me sometimes.
I feel like all we talked about for season 1 was how hot Angel was when he was walking around without a shirt off, so not sure where you are, Gabe.
Yeah, Gabe.
I don't know. He's a little too hairless and mopey for me. You know what I mean? A little too well manicured. Yeah, I need more rough around the edges. Oh my God, who is the guy from the first season who was actually really creepy but kind of cute? Who gave?
Doyle?
Yes, I think Doyle was written terribly. I hated the character. I thought the actor was kind of cute.
All right. So she grabs Drusilla and they leave. She throws
That is
Lindsay.
so fun, by the way.
Yes.
When she runs, when Drusilla's holding out her arms for grandmother to come pick her up, and she grabs her by the arm and takes off running. It's hilarious. And then to know where their scene is right after this is just so fucking funny.
Yeah, it's so good. And again, Drusilla's having fun.
Yeah.
What is it then?
They're
gang
driving
is
wildly through the street.
right. They're driving wildly through the street. Cordy gets a vision, and I wanted to know what we all thought, because do we think it was the powers that be trying to get him away from Darla and Drusilla, or just happened she got a vision at that moment?
I think she just happened to get a vision at that moment, and I think that the scene that entails is entirely pointless, and it's pointless for a reason, because it shows us the divide between Angel's cares and his employees' cares that ultimately leads to what happens at the end of the episode. Because in thinking back on it, I was like, why did they even go there? But it makes sense because, we get this. He wants to keep going full speed ahead to wherever they're headed. And they're like, no, this vision, it's important, blah, blah, blah. So that's my take.
All right.
It does also feel like Wolfram and Hart is maybe trying to lure him there, because they do capture him later this episode. That was sort of the goal. And so if we want to assign the powers that be an actual narrative purpose, which sometimes they have and sometimes they don't.
Right. Yeah.
I think maybe that could have been an intervention to avoid him getting captured, but a vampire getting arrested is also not really high stakes.
Right.
He'll be fine. So
Angel, this is when Angel, I do think, is just being an asshole.
Yes.
When he's like, well, why didn't she have it earlier? And it's you know how this works. Sir. And I do like that Cordy threatening him with the stake is what gets him to turn around. She's post-vision headache, whatever, and then just grabs a stake and points it at him, and he's like, all right. Because I feel like she's the one that can usually pull him back a little bit, right? So it makes sense that she would be the one that gets him to be fine, I'll turn around. Then we get Darla and Drusilla fighting outside of the cafe on the street in LA.
So funny.
Yes.
To know that she yanks Drew out of that seat, and Drew's having the time of her life still. She don't realize Darla's mad. Takes her onto the street, and Darla is whipping her ass around. And every time she knocks her to the ground, Drew just stays there and stays still.
Yes.
And then Darla will yank her back up and throw her into the street like a fucking ragdoll.
Yeah, it's such a weird fight because it's just Darla throwing her.
And just how about displeased you?
Yeah.
Getting hit by cars or almost hit by cars.
The full Regina George hit where she goes rolling through the street. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
It's so funny. They play it so funny. It's because she's literally just grabbing her arm and throwing her by arm around. Yeah. It's if you grab a legit rag doll, just yank it around and hit it against walls and stuff. It's so brilliantly done. They're great together.
Yeah.
What is also great about this scene is as soon as that guy in the red pickup truck starts talking, we all know what's going to happen to him. We're going to let the scene play out. We don't even have to worry about him because we know.
Yeah.
We know what's coming.
But right before that, she has that moment where she has Drew up against the car and she says, why did you do this? Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was but then the switch is so quick too, that she's been in that mindset forever that this is it is what it is. I guess this is what I wanted earlier. So
yeah,
sure.
Yeah. I liked the idea again, going back to no, these vampires loved each other, because Drusilla's not lying, right? I do think she did it because she thought this is what Darla would want. Right. And so I don't know. I love when it's I don't know. I feel now I can't think of anything, but Zach, I feel we've done covered horror movies where it's the bad guy does care about this one person or this one, I like when we get a little bit of layers to our villains and that Drusilla once she is like, wait a minute, after being thrown around for 5 minutes, is like, wait a minute, are you upset? Like, are you mad at me? I think you might be mad at me. And then she like cries and she says like, I thought this is what you wanted. And then Darla, like Julie Benz is so good. She has that turn, right? She then gets motherly and is like, oh, wait a minute. This is like my child. And she like embraces her and they're hugging. And before they kill that guy, Kim, when they're like the switch of when he's like, hey ladies, why don't you can kiss your girlfriend in the hotel room or whatever. And they're both sad. And then they just slowly look up at him. And it's like, oh, they're going to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
And I love that moment. This scene in particular, I love the moments where the sort of underworld of the supernatural clashes with the mundane of Los Angeles. Like those moments that remind us where we are, and that there are people here and they're not used to seeing this is really, really fun. Like the cafe people, but the guy in the car in particular is so funny to me because he's just honking and mad, which is like 60% of living in LA, I feel like. And then it's also so, I mean, like I could do a whole queer reading of this scene in particular because when he gets out and interprets their intimacy as like, all right, here's just like a couple queer women blocking the street in LA again. Like, oh God. It's just so funny to me. And that turn when they're like, okay, yeah, we know what this guy's going to get. We've seen it coming since the beginning, like Kimberly said, is just so juicy. And even the physicality between Darla and Drusilla in this scene, like the way Drusilla sort of bops Darla on the nose at the end and they run off holding hands. Like it's just so it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite scene in this. Well, no, let me not speak too quickly because we're getting to some juicy shit. But it's a really, really great scene, this episode. It just has so many fun elements to it.
Yeah, I love it. And I love, Darla's back, right? This is, now Darla is like, she beat up Drew, she embraced Drew, they killed a man, tied them together, and is like, let's go shopping.
And poor Darla, though, because she really, they just been yanking her around with her life. She's a human, then she's not a human. Now she's a human again. Now she's not going to be a human. She just doesn't get a damn break. So let her have a massacre or two, okay?
She deserves this massacre.
It's a treat. It's a treat.
I mean, that's what I keep saying this season, but I definitely didn't appreciate Darla watching the series live. But, like, she's so good, and they do... She has been through some fucking shit, so it kind of like, especially the previous episode, she accepts, okay, I'm going to die. No big deal. This is it. This is who I am. And then is turned into a vampire. And I don't know. She is a tragic character. And, you get her whole backstory in Darla, which is also tragic. And like, right, Kim, I think we talked about that in Darla, that episode where it's like, even though her backstory is mostly her being evil, there is like a tragic like nature to her story, right?
Yeah, I mean, she was, born sort of in the wrong time period for the type of woman that she wanted to be, certainly.
Right.
So becoming a vampire is sort of like a power thing that happens to her. Like she gains this actual power that she could only have in ways that were like not classy. I guess being a vampire is not really classy either, but like it's different. Like she has actual power. And I think like her work as a sex worker is some kind of power, but really it's, you're probably, especially back then, like often like have to be like submissive to the people that you're sleeping with. So it's just a new way to kind of really come into herself.
Yeah. Yeah. Zach and Gabe, I'm curious how you both view Darla. Because Gabe, you watched the series once through, right? Before we started season 1.
Yeah.
So like, how do you view Darla?
I mean, honestly, if I got brought back from the dead and had to suffer through like symptoms of syphilis, I would be very mad. I would be very, very angry. So that was an unfortunate turn. I think we get a lot more to chew on with Darla in this series, which I think is a lot of fun. And I had mixed feelings the first time watching this through, seeing her as a human. I'm like, oh, she's not really getting to do the fun stuff she usually does. But I think it's such important runway to get to this point. And I think this transformation in this scene in particular is so interesting because she's almost at this like sort of angel phase where she's like woken up from being turned, but she's not like fully a blood hungry vampire yet. And there's like a little bit of that like soul and humanity peeking through. And so I think it is really cool to sort of see Julie Benz play both of these sides of Darla, and like get that kind of emotional range. But I don't know. I just feel like there's no good end for her after being brought back. It's like either option is frustrating. It's like you're going to die from a syphilitic heart or get turned into a vampire. And she's been dealt a pretty crappy hand for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zach, what do you think of Darla?
I'd agree with all that, and I would say that she is the type of person that just rolls with the punches, and so she is a vampire now. She's accepting that pretty quickly. She just, it's that really quick turn, and her only sort of like experience with a vampire trying to live a good life was Angel, and he lived a pretty like miserable looking life. Like it looked miserable, the life that he led, and why would she want that? So her only other experience, well, I have the power. Humans are not very strong. I can kill whoever I want. I can live wherever I want. I can do whatever I want. This is the life that I'm living right now, right? So that's what I'm just going to go with. And I think, you can't just kill people. You just can't kill people. But if I were like a vampire, maybe I would say, she's earned this.
Right.
I don't know. I feel really bad for her, especially watching her in Angel. I think it just, her life sucked, man. And her hundreds of years as a vampire, those are some pretty damn good years for her.
Right. And it's like God, now I'm like, am I Darla? Like she just wants those like good years back, right? Like she's just like struggling to find those good years and like, God, have I lived 100 years as a vampire? And so you do feel a little bad for her. And just, I think Julie Benz is just so good. And like, I talked about this in the Darla episode, and it's apparent here too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the difference in the way she talks to Drew, the way her voice can change, whether she's being in control or doing her baby whisper, or like, because with Drusilla, once she gets there, she does kind of talk to her as like, not in a patronizing way, but as if she is her child, right? Like that's how she speaks with her. But like when she's, talking to Holland, she's pretty straightforward, but like almost flirty because she's going to kill him because she's playing with her prey, like a cat.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like that there's that, you can see the difference. Like Spike and Drusilla can annoy her. People that she needs something from, she's going to be more like cutesy with, and like people she's going to kill, she's kind of just straightforward. Like, this is what it is. I'm going to fucking kill you. I don't know. I like seeing the different ways she interacts with people.
Yeah, that's all really good. It's you know what else sucks is that she's in purgatory basically right now, right? She had her full life as a human. She had her full life as a vampire. That was supposed to be it. That was her end.
Right.
And then you're brought back to live through the same exact things. Same exact syphilis. Same exact syphilis. Like, really? It's not like she just caught it. She got brought back with the syphilis.
Right.
Terrible. And it just, that sucks. It's just, okay, well, whatever life I have now coming back is going to end exactly like either life I lived, I've already lived. I'm going to meet the same exact end.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to the guy that they had the vision about. Angel's very like, get in and get out. They're like, we have to go easy, he's about to crack. And Angel just throws this like stereo at the guy, takes his gun, throws it in the oil, and is like, the demon you're going to sacrifice yourself to is not worth it. And basically leaves the gang there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, Kim, we cut to a clothing store where what's happening?
Darla and Drew are shopping.
I can feel your quotes.
Yes, Drew's phone rings and it's in her boobs, which I love, being a person who carries my phone in my boobs sometimes. And so they're having a little bit of fun there, trying on some clothes, terrorizing / killing salespeople. Holland gives them a little call and asks them to incite a massacre.
Yeah. I almost wish we could have gotten more of this, like of them just like having fun murdering people, because I love that Drew is like, can I have it, to Darla, as if like they're not monsters just murdering and stealing. Like she's like, oh, am I allowed to take this? And Darla's like, of course you are. You look great in it. And like talking about what brings out her eyes. And I do love when the phone rings, and I feel like that's an iconic Drew moment. She's like, I'm ringing all over.
Yeah.
And then Darla just pulls it out and she goes, oh yeah, forgot about that.
And the way she moves her body and the dress that she's wearing that's just hugging her body, and it's so perfect.
She like Juliet Landau has the perfect look to play a vampire, right?
Yes.
Like, she was born to play a vampire. And yeah, so Holland wants them to incite a massacre. She gets off the phone with him, and this working retail, like, this is like, this would happen when she's like, you're dying? Well, I need you to help me pick out shoes. Just last year when I worked at Barnes & Noble, the power went out. We had so many people complain to us. And it's like, what the fuck do you think I can, like, a woman was like, do you know the lights are off? And like, yeah, no shit, the power went out. We had a person complain to corporate about our power being out because the cafe refused to serve her a sandwich, even though the power was on in some places in the building, but the power was out in the cafe. So like, so I'm just like, yeah, this would, I could see someone at Barnes & Noble have been like, you're bleeding out? Well, I just need to find this book real quick. Like,
there's a blue cover. I think the author's name starts with C.
Oh, you can't figure it out from that? Oh my God, fine. I'll leave you to die.
Customer with a question here. Like, such a good.
And then so we get Holland is basically like, oh, they're going to be doing this massacre. Angel won't be a problem. And then who comes crashing through the window, Zachary?
Darla. It's Angel, of course. A mention of Angel. He's got to come crashing through. I do like his line about, if you extend the hand, you're going to lose it, right?
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. And I like had forgotten that he hadn't met Holland yet. Like in my brain, of course they had met, but yeah, we only really saw Holland like at Wolfram and Hart. And I like, the thing I like about Holland, that actor does really well, which, Kim, do you remember him from Lost?
Mm-hmm. Totally different dude.
I know. It's so funny because like in Lost, he's like this like sweet, nice old man. And here he's like this like evil corporate lawyer who defends demons. But I love the way they have Holland always go into like corporate lawyer speak. Mm-hmm. Like even during this, even when he's nervous, even at the end, he's like always thinking that way and he doesn't turn it off. Mm-hmm. But it's also to try to save his own life, right? Like that's what he's at the end trying to do.
But here, I mean, he just comes off as like very competent and suave. And like, I'm like, oh, okay. Like you're a very competent villain.
Yes. He's good at his job. And before they can really do anything, aside from him grip up Lindsay, he gets arrested, right? They have already called the police.
They're carrying many stakes.
Yes.
What is that about? Like, why? Like, I don't understand. It's like, we caught you. We're calling the LAPD. I don't, like, it's a vampire, my man. I don't understand what that flex was about. I don't understand why Angel walked out in cuffs. Like, it's just preposterous.
It's to bring Kate in. It's to give Kate her moment because she only comes with cop car.
Right, exactly. It's the only way we're going to be able to loop her into this storyline.
This is like one of the few times where she doesn't annoy me. Mm-hmm. I like that she's like, I know I can't
doing
stop.
The bare minimum.
Right. Yeah. Because I feel like end of season 1, she would have been like, nope, this is Angel's fault. We're putting him in jail while Darla and Drusilla are murdering everyone in LA. So I like that she, like, I mean, it is bare minimum, Zach, but finally is like at least trusting him. Right. And like, is like, pull over, lets him out. And I like that they don't say anything. He doesn't say thank you. She's just like, I know that you can stop them and I can't. Mm-hmm. They don't need to like, exchange pleasantries. It's just, this is what it is. So here I'm letting you go. But you're right, Gabe. It is ridiculous because he could have broken out of any of that. Like at any moment he could have been like, all right, I'm jumping out. I mean, he does say that. Like, when do you want me to break out? When you go to put me in jail? Or so then we cut to Holland Manor's house. He's having a party in his bunker/wine cellar. His wife is letting in guests.
Ugly ass house, by the way.
Right? Rich people have such tacky taste. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the sound of Manor's mansion, though.
Oh my God, stop. Mrs. Manners with the crab cakes.
God. So then the parties, like we see Lindsay, and this is almost a moment where I wish we had more Wolfram and Hart lawyers to kill. Like, I wish there were more like names to faces rather than just like.
Oh, it could have been lawyers. Like a crazy party scene had they
like,
introduced more baddies that we thought were going to be more useful later on.
Right.
It would have been pretty wild. It was still really good, and I love Lindsay walking in and immediately downing a single glass of wine.
Yes. And like, I love Lindsay just like not giving a shit, right? Like he's like, sure, kill me, whatever. Like he just does not care. But so our girls walk in, and Darla says, "Did someone say something about?" And then they morph into their vamp faces, a massacre, which is so good. And I love that Holland immediately goes into like, we're so glad to see you. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Even though he knows his wife is dead upstairs. Because Drusilla has said, like, what does she say? She tasted like cinnamon or something like that.
Like clover and thyme.
Then licks her lips. It's so good. Yeah.
And Holland is still like, we're going to help you. We're going to work to help you guys. Blah, 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 blah. And I love Drusilla going up to Lila saying, "You have beautiful skin." And she's like, "I moisturize." And she says, "That was very thoughtful of you." Like, so good. And I do like seeing Lila. I just like seeing bad guys reacting to bad guys. Like, it's like, oh, these people are worse than us because they will just murder us. I don't know. I like that it's like they know they have no power in this situation. During this, we see Angel. He goes to the dress shop where there's a survivor who tells him about, the girls were going to a party.
A tasting,
right. And God, everything Darla and Drusilla do in this like whole ending is so good, right, Kim?
It's perfect. 10 out of 10, no complaints.
This is girl dinner.
Yeah, that's what this is. And I love that as soon as Angel walks in, he's not there yet. He just walked in like upstairs. Drusilla's like, "Daddy's home." Like she knows. I like that when Darla's like going up to Lindsay and she's like, "I smell fear, but from you, I'm getting nothing."
I will say I really liked the way the scenes of Angel at the crime scene and the tasting were sort of cut.
Yeah.
Because like I think there's a version where you could have played the whole wine tasting scene like just straight without cutting to anything else. But it builds the tension so well. Like when you pick up at the scene, there's no attack. It's just like this dialogue combined with the sort of stillness and like the aftermath of their like last bloodbath at the store. And so I really love the editing here because I think it does such a good job of like every time we come back to the wine tasting, I'm like, oh my God, is it happening? Right. And then also I'm wondering how much time elapsed between the bloodbath at the store and the wine tasting, because Darla's hair is crimped when she comes to the wine tasting, implying that they took a while to like style her hair. And I just want to know how quickly they did that, where they did it. Like there needed to be one more stop on the Darla and Drusilla tour. And I wanted to see them crimp her hair.
My hair doesn't crimp, so I can't help. My hair just falls out immediately. So I have no idea how long.
They did it with Drusilla's fingernails.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Like, on the way
up. And I like the crimped hair makes her look
like Darla.
So
it's Darla. She's back, baby.
Yeah, it like somehow makes her look more unhinged because it's just like her hair is bigger. She's there to kill everybody. Angel comes downstairs and Drusilla has so many good lines. Like she's like,
"We have to put in a people seller." Love
right.
Oh my God. And grandmom won't eat the double speak. That delivery, the air quotes. Oh my God. So many. The people seller one is one of my favorites too, Kimberly. I thought that was great.
And when she's like, it's not daddy. It's never daddy.
Yeah.
All of the daddies are very good. And when Lila pleads, like he's like, "I'm sorry I couldn't save you." And he means Darla, and he's not there to save any of the lawyers. And Lila says, "For God's sake, help us.
Yeah.
People are going to die." And he says, "I can't seem to care."
Yeah.
Which is a line Holland said earlier. We have a little callback there.
And like, it's what she says, "It's the angel beast." And Darla's like, "You come to punish us?" And she says, "Spank us till Tuesday."
All that like sexual tension that they create like in those moments, I guess it's just the kind of there anyway, but that they actually talk about is just amazing.
They get like real horned up once Angel arrives.
"We promise to be bad if you do."
Right. Like, And I kind of love it.
Love
It's like they're there to do murder, but now they're like, oh, wait a minute. You want to fuck? Because like, we'll do that instead if you're down.
Yeah, this is another reason Drusilla truly is a favored gay character. The daddy, the spank me line, the wine, the doll, the grandma of it all. It's just, it's sublime. She's giving us a great queer narrative. It's beautiful.
And when he shuts that door and she like whispers, Daddy, it's so good. Right? Like she's happy because she feels like, ooh, he is kind of back. He's letting us do the thing we want to do that he was going to stop us from. And I don't know, it's just so good. And this is such a turning point for Angel too, right?
Yeah.
Like
with the juxtaposition, I use that word again, between the aftermath of the massacre at the store and then this scene here, and that quiet sort of sadness that's really developing in anger in Angel.
Yeah.
I think towards the scene with Cordy's flashback, or not the flashback, the vision, right? So he's like, I could have stopped this. And he doesn't have to say it. And you don't even know that that's what he's thinking. But when you take those scenes together and the way he's gathering his evidence slowly and think about, the time that has to have elapsed, I think that his turn at the end, that is a surprise, at least if you think back on the episode and all of the time that is wasted by those other characters, it almost makes sense, even if we don't like it.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I agree with everything you just said, but this group of people in this room were trying to incite massacres anyway. He probably saved a couple dozen people just by taking these ones out. So
yeah, so it's interesting. He's mourning this other, like the deaths he couldn't save, and then causing the other massacre at the same time. Like it's just such a complicated space for him to be in.
I just don't know if he is mourning it or if he's feeling like he should mourn it.
Well, mourning the shopkeepers, I would say, but not the lawyers.
Them, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think he has regret about not being able to stop. And that adds to his anger, not just towards his crew that he fires, but also then towards like the lawyer group.
And I think you're right. It is complicated. And I think what I sort of brush up against weirdly at the end of this episode is that it's like when Angel makes a choice to shut the door, Drusilla's like daddy, implying that he's embracing a darkness in him. And it's interesting that like, I think this was an era of TV where the like turn the other cheek hero was sort of the moral compass, right? It's like, okay, like you can't kill, like you can let other people kill and not stand in their way, and it's still the more moral thing to do than killing that person or like fighting back. And I think maybe it's just me older now watching it, but I'm like, yeah, let those vampires like dine on those lawyers. Like absolutely. Like it's so funny because they're like, even when he goes back to the hotel afterward, they're like, how could you do that? How could you do that? I'm like, it's maybe not the most like morally pure choice to make, but the stakes feel so life or death, and these people have like wrought so much like evil in the city. I like don't really think that like that was the evil choice. It's a morally complicated one, but I don't think it's as clear cut as Angel B. It's dark Angel back, like he doesn't give a fuck.
But plot wise, right? Like it's like
right.
The Angel prior to this would have never. Yeah, I think this was like, I watched this Angel arc live because I remember being like, holy shit, what? When I watched this, but now it's like, I kind of agree with you, Gabe. It's kind of like, yeah, fuck them.
Like, fuck the crab cakes. I'm over it. We're done.
Maybe grab some on the way out if you want.
Exactly.
Hey, they're in the hands of the woman who's dead upstairs, Ian.
Yeah.
True.
I feel like she's the only innocent one. He couldn't save her, but then like all these other people are just as bad as like the probably many vampires that he's slayed before. And I do think that it's maybe more difficult for Cordy and Gunn and Wesley. They're being humanist in this moment. I'm totally on Angel's side here. Like they're just like, those human lives are more important. It's like, no, like they're evil people. They just aren't demons. Like you've killed so many demons and vampires and nobody's complained about it, but they can't get over the fact that they're human.
Right.
Yeah. I just think he easily knows I can get over this. This may be a thing that I think about for a moment, but in the grander scheme, I will get over this. This will be fun.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're like I agree with you, Kim. I don't think they're able to think in that way. Like I don't think they could picture themselves doing that.
Yeah.
And I do think there's something to be said about that. I mean, not to get too into the nitty gritty of this argument, but it's like when vampires are killing people, there's at least you can be like, oh, well, there's like an innate bloodlust to their condition. Like, you know what I mean? It's like there's this kind of animal. These humans don't have that. They're just like choosing to. There's more of a choice in being this bad. There's nothing innate in them that's like driving them to like drink blood to survive or kill people to survive besides like capitalism and corruption. I don't know. Like it's so yeah, I would even like feel a little bad for the vampires more so than I would for these characters. I'm glad Lila's, you know, not dead after this, because that's a character I really enjoy seeing in the future, but otherwise the lawyers can go for sure.
Yeah, and so Angel fully locks. I guess the thing that's like a little like is like he fully locks that door to make sure they all die. Like he doesn't like he's not like
fun.
passive.
That's
he's
fun.
more like. I mean, you are right, Zach. It's like okay, yeah, get the deed done. He goes back and he tells the gang. The gang is upset with him, and he says he'll stop them eventually. And Cordelia gets like, you know, she's like, what? After he's killed everyone who's wronged you? They tell him he went too far, and the episode ends on him doing what, Zach?
You're fired.
Everyone is fired.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that Ian, if this were happening in real time and we got to see Twitter react to this, like as though they knew what was going on in Angel Investigations, you and I would say that the gang is not having enough nuance in this situation.
Yes.
But also Angel's reaction to them, he suddenly doesn't have any nuance either.
Right.
So this is a complicated thing happening, and like no one is reacting or like talking about it with like the proper amount of nuance except us.
Except
They
us.
just need to talk about it. That's all. That's what it was all. But like the thing is, I don't even think they're thinking of it in terms of like, oh well, you know, that's the wrong thing to do. They're always on edge that he's going to walk in the door and being jealous. Like that comes up quite a bit. So I do fully understand where their hesitation is here, but like have a quick conversation, 5 minutes, right? Just something.
Right. That's a good point, Zach, because Cordelia does bring that up a lot. And she didn't, you know, suffer a lot from it, but she did live through Angelus in season 2. So she knows, you know, we didn't see her crying, but like her teacher did get murdered too. So she knows how bad it can get, right?
She had to safety proof her car. Okay.
Right.
That was traumatic.
And he has been sort of getting more dark in ways that are specific. So, I mean, one of the only important things that happens in the Shroud of Vermont is that he drinks the human blood. You know, so like they see these sort of, it's like, you know, 12 steps down instead of in a positive direction. Like now he's letting vampires kill people. He drank the blood before. He's violating OSHA, whatever.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's weird that this episode has like 2 kicker endings, right? It's like him leaving and fully locking that door and then him firing everyone. I don't, but I do like this arc of him firing them. Like I remember getting a little bored with it watching it live because I was like kind of watching this season a little bit live, but I think it makes for like a different story and not something you would expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess we're at the end here. Favorite scene, Kim?
I'm going to go with the little scene at the end with Darla and Drew and the lawyers, and specifically as soon as Drew senses Angel coming upstairs through, like, when he locks the door. Because it's a big, long scene, and I like the whole thing, but specifically those moments.
Gabe?
I would say, I think maybe my favorite acting was in the scene outside from the cafe to them eating the man in the truck. Just really great, like, build to that scene. But I think my favorite like fight effect happened in the plant nursery when Angel gets shoved through the skylight by Darla.
That's fair. Zach, when we recorded yesterday, remember I was like, what's that called? A garden place, a nursery. That's what it's called.
The greenhouse is fine. Yes, I said greenhouse and he dismissed me. He said, no,
it wasn't a greenhouse. It's like a place that like sells and grows.
That's a damn
flowers.
greenhouse.
Zach, your favorite scene?
When she's yanking Drusilla around the streets, it's too funny. It's too much. It's too hilarious. Give me a full episode where like Darla and Drusilla are trapped in whatever happened to Baby Jane. Like this is their dynamic, and I love it.
I have two favorite scenes. It's the tie. I love that greenhouse scene, and I love again what Kim said. That party scene is just so good. I love whenever they portray these like powerful villains as like cats batting around like a little mouse. And that's like what's going on here. It happens a lot with Glory in season 5 where like the Slayer is just annoying to her, right? Like she knows she could kill her. And that's what this is. Like all these people, you know, they're going to kill them and they can very easily kill them. I will say I'm glad Lindsay and Lila survived because the characters are good, but I feel like realistically, it doesn't quite make sense. Darla does kind of give a reason next episode, but like, I do feel like they would have just killed all of them and not really cared. But yeah, those are my two favorite scenes. Favorite outfit, Kim?
I'm going to go with, so I have a complicated answer, Darla's look at the end.
Okay.
In the wine cellar scene, specifically because throughout this entire episode, Drew's wearing red. She got the red dress on, and then she switches to her red with the leopard at the end. Yeah. And Darla's in white, right? And so when they do get changed and do the hair crimp and everything, which also looks amazing, she's got these gold pants on and this sort of sheer long-sleeved black shirt with like, I guess like a tank top black shirt underneath, and her hair looks amazing. And it's this switch from this like white sort of rebirth, like human to like, okay, now I'm a vampire again sort of look. And I think that works really well. I do need to give a special honorable mention to Drew's nail polish, which is like red with the white tips, like a French manicure, but with the tips white and then the nail part red, which was amazing as well.
I think that's the same manicure she has when she kills Kendra.
Yeah, I don't think it's like the first time we've ever seen those nails on Drew for certain, but it's still perfect.
Gabe?
I've got to say the hats at the store. It's just, they're so unhinged. And it's so much fun to watch them do that. So yeah, I think I was gonna spite Zach and say Cordelia with her haircut at the beginning, but I'm gonna stick to
Not
the hats.
even you can pick the haircut though, so you clearly didn't.
The hats really just outshone the hair. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Zach?
Drusilla's red dress. I like when her hair's down. I like the dress and showing off her figure so that when she like, you know, moves her hips and like wiggles around a little bit, it really just adds to the dialogue that she has, right? And in Buffy, they have her like, you know, they have a lot of clothes piled on her at all times, like big fur coats and stuff. And I think this it's perfect for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine is Drusilla's other outfit. I love her in the all red with the coat with the leopard print fur on it. Love that. What grade do we give this episode, Zach?
I'll do like an A-.
I thought you were going to say a C. I was like,
no, an A-.
I would have rioted. I was going to toss my laptop out the window and ruin the episode if I had heard
it was Cordy's hair. It's a C for Cordy's hair.
Don't you dare.
Gabe, what grade did you give it?
I honestly, I want to say A+ because of the Drusilla of it all. I mean, maybe I need to think about this season more in context, but we just got great acting, really fun dialogue, incredible fight scenes. Like this episode hit all the things that I think are good about Angel and that when they lean into make episodes stronger. So let's say, I'm feeling gay and generous. Let's give it an A+. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Professor Kimberly Ann, what grade do you give it?
All right, I'm going to give it an A, and I have to justify my reason for not giving it an A+, and it is because as a college professor in most universities I've taught at, there is no A+ option.
Okay.
Your A is it could be a regular A or it could be an A+. At my school I have now, we don't even have pluses or minuses at all, which is just wild.
Huh. All right.
But yeah, I don't give A+ because I don't give A+. I just give A's, and it could be an A or it could be an A+. So A.
All right. I give it an A. This is, I think, one of the best episodes of Angel. Honestly, this is almost feels like the fastest moving plot in a single episode we've ever gotten, like with the most like actiony and things actually going on, and it not being all just through just Angel and one-off characters for that episode. It's like these are characters we know and we care about, you know, and I just, it's so good. It's such a bummer that it ends so quickly, because this really could have been, not that they needed to be the big bads, but like, I would have liked them as reoccurring villains, the way, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that would have worked really well. All right. Well, if you like Slayerfest 98, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can follow us on social media at SlayerFestX98. You can follow me on my personal at IanXCarlos on all social media platforms. Kim, where can everyone find you and buy your book?
I am on Twitter at KimAndJoeSouth, and you can go to my website, KimberlyAndSouthwick.com for more.
I had someone tell me that your promo for your book worked, and that's why they bought it. It made me very happy.
Wow. Oh, yay.
Gabe, where can everyone find you?
You can find me online. My website is gabeis.gay. It's a real URL, and you'll type it and you'll get to a website that is not porn, but my website. And then you can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, using the handle Gaybones, GAYBONEZ. And if you are in New York and you'd like to come see me, I have a monthly show at a bar called Come On Everybody. The show is called The Lavender Scare. It's a fun comedy show with an all-queer lineup and some games surrounding queer and trans history.
And Zachary, where can everyone find you and your other shows that you do?
Well, I only have one other show that I'm currently working on right now, and that is My Bloody Judy with Ian Carlos Crawford here. And we just recorded a couple episodes yesterday, and those will start going out this week. I don't know what week this is going out, but, you know, it should be going by the time you listen to this. So, yeah. My Bloody Judy.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.